to render a 20. Seems that the 20 is not enough though.
How did you go for it that this isn't enough? Did you try to figure it out on the browser or
Yes,
something?
what I'm doing right here, as you can actually see, although you can't really see anything, that's the problem. That's why I'm not streaming it actually. Is that we can see black background right now, which is basically that it's telling us that there is nothing there. That's correct basically, because it can actually be positioned through the plane, I suppose, or too close to it, or in the wrong side of it, which is most the probable solution for it. And right now it cannot even render it. As you remember with
Okay.
the ball for sky, for example, we used it to.
Yes.
We could never see the outside of the circle. We could only see the inside.
Ah, we are talking about the inside now.
Yeah, so if we're in the wrong side of a plane, for example, we can't really see the plane. It's invisible.
Now I see. Okay.
So I should probably find where's my plane right here. Yes. Did I specify the actual place of it? Oh, it seems that I have given it some rotation right here. Uh, Maybe we don't really need the rotation for the plane. We might not. No. This may be a way to go for things, although, you know, it's not the best way to go for things. For this kind of solutions, actually. But sometimes trial and error is the
The
things
best
that you
way to
get.
get over the problems.
Yes, indeed. Sometimes,
Otherwise,
especially
man, you
if
need
you.
the debugger,
Exactly.
and you have to learn one by yourself.
Well, sometimes that's how you learn as well. And that's exactly what we're doing right now. Because, well, like I said before, the dimensions basically are, well, here we go. Yes, finally. As you can see now, well, soon enough anyway, we can actually see a very close up of the grass.
Just wait for me to stream it up.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, this is a very close up. Okay, now got it.
So basically, we need to alter, I guess, our position, and just in case we may figure the correct way to do it, though, which should basically be, I guess, this. Yes. Yes, finally. There you go. So now we can actually see the field.
You can actually see the field.
I can actually see the field, not you yet. We also need to figure out a way
Ah,
to solve this problem.
we can actually see the field. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. Seems that delays and that bad still.
Ah, this is the main the main perspective that of which you were talking about.
Exactly. So we
This
have a
is,
panoramic perspective.
and I see your shit now, man. This is the first step to go over an RPG game, huh?
Yes, I suppose. I suppose.
This
Well,
is a very
I
good
cannot really talk from
initiate.
experience.
But it's a start. I think this is how a field could look in an RPG based game.
Well, I mean, the field here is basically just a very rough example, just so we can actually see the plane that we're using here. Uh, we may actually need to, use our own images later on, which we'll probably use. Basically, give it a background and then give layers upon layers of other fields, which may have images of either a road or I don't know, some grasses, some rocks, or some whatever else we may want to use. And we may actually do a similar, well, I guess, structure for our character and the enemies, or all this kind of beautiful things you can have in an RPG.
Okay.
So that's the first step right here. I suppose the next thing would be to, well, add some kind of a character or something like that, I suppose. For this one, we're actually gonna use the ball, because why not? I mostly want to do this so I can actually find the placement of not only the field, but the placement of the characters. So let's see. I should have somewhere around here my character. Yes, there it is. So let's define our character. It's gonna be a simple pole. Well, we don't really need the quality again, like I said.
So
Uh, yes,
excuse me, to get things up again, this is the initial stage that we're going into to make an RPG game, okay?
indeed.
Or
Well, any kind of game, I suppose.
any kind of game. We've recently gone through the field design, and now we are going to design the basic model of it, the basic character of it.
Not really. What we have done so far is find our perspective in the world, find exactly
Mm,
where the camera is, and all this kind of stuff. I suppose someone a bit more experienced wouldn't even need to do that stuff. He would already
okay.
know exactly where his camera starts from, and he would just start making, suppose, well, in a very advanced stage anyway, he would make a creation kit, basically. Something that will be used to make the game. In our case, I may not really do that, although I may use some functions like the ones you will see soon enough, which functions may be used to render the stages, for example. And these functions can actually be calling other functions that create the little parts of the world, I suppose. Like there could be a little function that creates a rock element. I can use this function to create a rock and place it somewhere around the space that I'm interested in.
That's why I firstly asked you for to explain. I meant if you know or if you have previously designed basic model objects, for example, rocks or planes or something like this, uh, when having experience and gaining experience by the time this development in WebGL becomes somehow more easier, for example.
Yeah, I suppose it really does. I mean, it's the same thing with anything, really. You probably should know. I mean,
But
you.
yes, I mean this actually doesn't mean that the whole process is something easy. You have to calculate things and you have to make a good estimation about time as you aforementioned because this is about graphics, of course, and you have to get a long time to get this working.
Yes, I suppose you do, actually.
Ah,
Well, the
now I
better.
see the ball.
Yes, I have placed a ball in our field right now. Which, it is a ball right now, but it doesn't have to be a ball, and it won't even be a ball. It will probably be a group of objects, I suppose. A group of objects is basically you can actually create, let's say, eyeball, a square or something like that, group them up, and whenever you use the group, basically it can move together, it can interact together. So that may be the character. That's how I'm probably gonna create the character, and most of the interactive elements as well.
Okay. So, what you are thinking of in the next as a next step is after having completed lots of tasks about this game, is coming up with a more accurate character. Is that
The first
true?
thing I want to do is basically find some kind of a story, I suppose, the general idea of the game. I mean, it really depends. I can't really make a character without knowing what kind of a character will be. It doesn't
Of
really have to
course.
be a human. It doesn't have to be a humanoid at all, basically. It can be anything. It could even be a ball, basically. Although that may be a bit boring, I suppose.
So the main factor of the following steps of your development is to find the actual story of this game. Okay.
Yes, well, not the details maybe, because we don't need them yet. We will need the details whenever we reach the point where we actually need to create the actual world. First of all, we're gonna have the general idea of the story. In my case, of course. I mean, that's probably not what most of people use. But in my case, we're gonna find out the general story, I suppose. We're gonna find out what kind of a character would you have. If, well, the first one anyway, because you probably will be able to choose between multiple characters. And we're gonna find out what kind of elements the world will have, what kind of enemies you will face probably, all these kind of little things. And then we're gonna go into details, like making a story, I suppose. And well, finding out all the actual enemies, I suppose, the like the bosses, for example, if there are any, all the NPCs that may be encountered. We need to create all of those basically as a structure. Then we need to make functions to be able to call them easily. Whenever we want an enemy, you can use the function to call it there basically. And then we can make the instances, which will be basically the point where we need the details of the story. The first instance, for example, would be, of course, your starting place, wherever your character begins with. The next instance would be the next place that you can actually visit. If we, well, move in such a way, we may want to mix it up a bit and create the first and the last stages in the beginning. Like the first place where you begin with and the final battle that will, of course, end the game. That's also a
Yes,
possibility.
this is a good point of view, and I think I believe this is the way that they are planning things and tasks in big game development companies too.
I'm not sure about it actually. I would suppose that they're a lot more organized and they probably figure out the story in the beginning of the game. Uh, then they will probably figure out if the story is good enough to be actually made in the game. They may alter it a bit or whatever. That's probably when some designers may begin to create the rough sketches of the characters, then the models, and then the game creation engine, and the last of it is obviously creating the actual AI, the levels, all this kind of stuff.
I'm laughing because my mind came up with this question. What would you do if you were a developer in a big game company and if I gave you to play and finish your game, what would you do? How would you feel? If you know what movements you had to do, which enemies would you expect to win, and of course how to get over them, how would you feel?
I would probably make the game in a random way.